here are 50 ways to use TNT. From spawners to fireworks to the American flag, it's all here. But we'll start first with the safer option for TNT. If you were to take a TNT and then drop an anvil right on top like so, it'll stay on top of it while it's in block form, but as soon as I light it off, it actually goes inside of the entity and prevents any explosion damage on the blocks around it. Look at it, even the crops are fine. But if we get down some entities, whatever I'm feeling dubious for, let's get a couple of pigs or something. TNT, anvil on top, light it off. Only damages the pigs, but none of the blocks. So it looks like a giant thing full of TNT, but the truth is that there's actually more complex mechanics on the inside of this. We've got skulk sensors that are on every side of this. So then we can't do anything to this. Anything I try to do to disarm this, including placing water on top, doesn't really keep anything safe. It doesn't even reach the ground fast enough to disable the TNT down there. That's embarrassing. So given how destructive TNT is, this one's gonna seem a little strange. We could actually use TNT as a pretty good scaffolding block. TNT is instant break with your fist and survival. So if I'm going and planting myself up here, it's not exactly the safest tower. I wouldn't want this next to my duplex, but if I need to get rid of it, instantly breaks. In a way, it's kind of like slime blocks or honey blocks, except those would actually cushion your fall, and they're not gonna accidentally blow up your house if you set it off wrong. So one of the ways that this could actually be useful too is if you were trying to fill up something like water. So if I was trying to instantly drain something, this gives me a way of placing down all these blocks and then removing them instantaneously. I'm not doing it in the best way right now. It's all going to fill back in, but that could very well get rid of the water sources, which makes TNT a lot more useful in water than it's ever been. A TNT build hack. As you can see from far away, the bands on the TNT start to look like the stripes of the flag. And then adding glow like in here, we get the stars, giving us the old stars and stripes American flag. Credit to It Think I'm Your Mom for this one. Yeah, that seems fitting. I guess if you wanted to, you could add pale signs to the front and make it a little less obvious. And then if you control click on that, control middle click, then you can copy it all without the data. And then, you know, if you need to go and set off for 4th of July, you have a fun surprise in mind. Oh, that's a little high. I don't think our reset button's covering that one. Here we've got a diagonal build hack, which by attaching leads to these chickens here that we're keeping cooped up in the trap door. Oh, not that one. Sorry, buddy. Enjoy your freedom. But by attaching that all here, we get the strings of the bow. I love putting in the TNT minecart for the bullet there. I think that's very fun. This reminds me of something I would see in Clash of Clans, the giant X-bow. That's cool. By mixing together our TNT with red candles, we get the perfect thing to set up little sticks of dynamite. And I love the unlit wick. Looks like the tip of where you would light the dynamite. That's very fun. I mean, obviously you could go and set these off. They're not going to be nearly as destructive, but that can be fun too. And when you see these side by side, it really does match well with the little bits of TNT dynamite that we're seeing packed here. A good way to decorate your next mine shaft. That ties well with our next one, which is using TNT for terraforming. So what we've got here might just look like an odd-shaped cave, but it's actually how big TNT will clear around it. So if we watch it explode, we get this great radius that we can clear away to carve caves and canyons into our builds. I mean, using TNT to clear out blocks is already a popular concept, so using it to clear out blocks that you're not hoping to collect anyway works pretty well. So because TNT is predictable in this way, we always know just how much stone we're clearing out with each explosion, giving us 21 blocks whenever we do it. So if you want to calculate how you get rid of your mountain, that's a good start. This is gonna be a little unfortunate for our scarecrow, but we can use commands to make our bow into a TNT arrow cannon. So as soon as I flick this switch, because of this command down here, it'll summon prime TNT at any one of the arrows that I shoot off. So if I'm not a fan of this iron golem, I wasn't expecting all of those to lick TNT. That's awesome. Look at that. Oh, it's a chain reaction now. Oh, all the arrows are still exploding. Oops. But I love this. Getting to see where you're shooting your arrow in this way, that's very satisfying. Another bit of command-based fun that we can have is the TNT spawner. Now, the idea here is that we're gonna have a mob spawner that actually summons in primed TNT. Look at it. You can even see it in the center there. I wasn't expecting that. It just won't last for very long. The spawner is explodable itself, so we're not seeing it very far past childbirth is what I'm saying. We're gonna be going down into the deep dark because TNT down here is actually pretty good as a warden distraction, because all of this is going to be a lot of noise that we can set off to keep it aggro on these vibrations instead of towards us. Plus, you also clear away some of the skulk while you're at it, giving you a solid thing of XP as well. Let's see if I can avoid the warden this way. Oh yeah, so when you're placing it next to the skulk sensors and catalysts as you're going, then you're getting rid of all of it, making it safer as you're ultimately making it a little more dangerous in the short term. And the skulk sensors give off redstone, so when we walk past these, they'll even explode explode with it. It also makes the worst sounding ancient city. I'm actually very shocked by this one. I've stayed quite safe through this whole thing. Oh, maybe not, maybe not. There's one like crawling through the ground there. Oh, and it was my own hand that did me in. But that was pretty impressive. You could always use TNT for deep dark removal. Yeah, just a couple things of scaffolding, as we like to call it, placed down, and then get a start. Especially if you perch yourself up above here, you're not gonna have a lot of problems while you're dropping it down below. And the deep slate has high blast resistance, so you're not really getting rid of all that either. Really, you're just terraforming away all the ugly skulk. Here we've got ourselves a Bomberman minigame. You ready for this one, Observer? Teleport ourselves in. We've got ourselves a maze here, and then by walking through, we can go and plant TNT on any of these blocks and try to kill each other off. All right, I'll take the pink bed this time. Then with some Depth Strider boots, we've got waterlogged redstone down here. So then we're not actually exploding any of the blocks, we're just exploding each other. This will make it so that we can walk through easily, and then we can get the start on it. And then you can even add in cobwebs to slow people down, making it much like the original minigame. To me, this feels like the kind of minigame that Stampy would have built in his lovely world. Survival friendly, and, you know, just not survival for long. If I go and build up a pillar in the middle of the nether, where there's a whole bunch of zombie piglins around me, I can go and anger up all these guys, drop down my TNT block, and get a whole bunch of player kills. And because I'm doing player kills, I'm gonna get a whole bunch of better loot and XP too. It is a little precarious, but it's hard to say it doesn't keep you safe. Look at how many of them I already got rid of. And then I can go climb down here and collect all my spoils. Just keep in mind that because it is a player kill, if there's any left standing, they are gonna be mad at you. On to another mini game, a classic TNT run. We have a bed of pressure plates on top of gravel on top of TNT, giving us a whole set of basically a destructing platform. You ready to get started on it, Observer? Go. That'll do it. So if you go in the diagonal, you can really set off a whole bunch of these, and then you basically try to spleef your friends, or spleef yourself. I recommend doing it over an ocean so you're not destroying a metropolitan area when you're playing this. Glass is an annoying tool to break, and the reason for that is that there's no proper tool that you can use to efficiently break glass. You can't use a pickaxe, you can't use a shovel, you can't use a hoe, nothing. So, a way to get rid of it all quickly, if you don't care about getting any of it back, is with TNT. I mean, also, what better to throw in a glass house than just a whole bunch of exploding stone? And just like that, I've easily cleared off all these blocks with minimal collateral damage. What we've got here isn't to get rid of the glass, but instead get rid of the gravel. Since if we have a gravelly flats mountain like so, then with just one block of TNT, we could set off a whole chain reaction to watch. Check this out, Observer. So I plant down my one precarious TNT, and that'll start this whole thing of falling. Look at it go. We're getting a nice little chain reaction here. Oh, we can do better than that. There we go. Oh, I love watching it pool in from the center there. I thought there was just a creeper head block. No, there was a creeper just submerged up to its neck in gravel. But what you gotta keep in mind is that if the gravel's pretty thick, if the TNT doesn't reach the bottom, it actually won't set it off. Oh. That's a good little PC test there. Just making sure my frames are still intact. Yeah, watch it all chase with you as you're loading the chunks. That's fun. TNT can make a great way to harvest all of your animals quickly. So if we get them bobbing up and down in a sort of water system like so, then I could use this scaffolding block right here, light it off, and just like that, 100% collection from all of my beef. I mean, there's not a lot of cows to breed up again, but if you're breeding them up top in some kind of breeding chamber, then you could drop them down and easily get all of the spoils. So one thing that Observer pointed out is that if I were to hold a flame bow in my offhand and a looting 3 sword in my main hand, then I could use this to get responsibility for the player kill and get looting applied to all these mob drops. Let's check this out. And sure enough, I got almost half a stack more than I would have just regularly, plus a whole lot more leather. And much in the same way that we use the responsibility for us killing the mobs to get the looting applied, we can use that for other mobs too. Now, what I mean by this is that if I were to summon in a whole bunch of creepers down there, and then get the setup of a skeleton shooting towards an iron golem, then if that skeleton is shooting its arrow through the lava and it hits that TNT block, there we go, if I intercept it right there, that gives the skeleton credit for all those creeper kills, giving me a whole bunch of music discs. Oh my god, look at that. All of this in only one, oh, I got a couple of strats. Okay, good, that's my favorite one. And if you don't want to have the iron golem here, then you can always just have the skeleton shoot at you too. We're gonna see this process again, but in a different context, since if I were to take the same setup and swap it out from a skeleton to a drowned with a trident, then when I get a whole bunch of these villagers down here, drop that on down, kills all of these into immediate zombie villagers. Well, you should be in hard difficulty for this to be 100%, but once you are, we got ourselves all the zombie villagers that we could use for a zombie villager mob switch. We're gonna be using the help of automatic crafting with the crafter block to give ourselves automatic TNT dispensing. So what we've got here is a whole bunch of mine carts that are automatically crafting up with our TNT to give ourselves TNT mine carts that instantly detonate. Normal TNT would have to be primed and everything to drop off, and while this isn't TNT duplication, it's gonna feel like it, especially since these won't have the issue of exploding midair, so you don't have to go and move it down like you would with a regular kind of TNT duplication machine. These will only explode when they hit the bottom. Look at how far it drops. Usually we would have had the TNT machine stop working by this point, but it keeps going. We're gonna use TNT for an auto mining chamber. So what we have is a machine that'll automatically detonate TNT whenever we've pushed enough concrete or blocks into it. So you could have this with a stone generator, you could have this with a wood farm, and as soon as it reaches towards the bottom here, it'll get exploded by the falling TNT, which, might I add, we use a honey block here so that we're basically cooking the bomb. We're removing a lot of its fuse time up here, so then it will explode midair and give us all of the stuff flowing down into that obsidian chamber, an auto mining farm. And the credit for this would go to, as they say, Mr. B or Mr. Bazooki. Lately, TNT has become a popular thing to go and collect sand when you're out in the desert. And the reason for this might not just be because we're using the sand to create more TNT, but also look at how much sand we get from a singular TNT block. Over a stack and a half just right there. So if I were to go and chain these all up, it's 100% collection. And as long as you have the gunpowder figured out, you're getting yourself a whole lot of sand without having to go and waste your time with a whole bunch of efficiency 5 shoveling. Well, as Etho says, anyone who mines sand normally is a sucker. And if it's good enough for Etho, probably good enough for me. And from the sand to the forest, we can use the TNT to get rid of our trees. I'm not sure where this falls conservationally, but for this conversation, it works pretty well to get yourself a whole bunch of logs in the forest. So if you don't have yourself an automatic tree farm, this could do a lot of the trick for you. It's also just really satisfying placing down TNT in a forest. I don't know what Smokey Bear's take on this is, but for me, it works just fine. So if we first create ourselves a shadow platform so that we're actually in the right brightness, then once you darken it up, we're gonna be able to place down our mushroom shelf and explode our way to a whole bunch of brown mushrooms. I love using it as an umbrella like this. And one thing worth noting is that if you don't have a lot of obsidian, waterlogged leaves also do the trick. Plus they look pretty fun too. And as long as the mushrooms don't mind you setting up camp above, you can get a whole lot of brown mushrooms just for a whole little bit of work. Over into the nether, we're gonna be using TNT for netherite mining, since it's a little bit easier to control than beds, which is a funny statement to say, but if you can go and set up a whole column of TNT for yourself to go through, then you could very easily chain react that through, and it'll leave any netherite scrap that you find down here completely intact. So the ancient debris is easy to find this way. And what I like to do is that I just go and mine myself a tunnel like so. Then all I have to do is just walk back through it, placing TNT, and then you could easily light it off and start the chain reaction to expose a whole bunch of the tunnel and see if you got lucky. Anything? Hey, we found some. Well, we're gonna get a lot faster at finding this because we're gonna go back and show you a TNT nether bore. So funnily enough, using ancient debris, we can push that with a piston and give ourselves the proper tunnel bore to go and find even more ancient debris. Since we can't normally push obsidian with a piston, but ancient debris is still explosion proof, but can be pushed, giving us a way to build a TNT duper up top that we can then push our TNT on top of and use it to carve the way for our tunnel bore. And this design's tileable too. You can build a whole bunch of these in a row and have it all clearing out scores of the nether just for you to get your ancient debris. And credit to the master miner for making this masterful mining design. Much like we did with the deep dark, we can just go and set a path of this TNT up top like so, and then dropping it down. All these big caves that generate since the Caves and Cliffs update are now going to be ours to explore easily. So if you find yourself in a situation where there's a whole bunch of mobs below us, we can just easily take our TNT and drop it on top and clear them out instantaneously. So if you can start with a ledge, then just any amount of TNT that you want to place down, preferably not double thick, so then you're not exactly having it drop on top and explode towards you. But that'll give us a way to find some new ores that expose below and have a lot less mobs that are giving us problems when we go down and mine them. If you find yourself stuck in a pillager outpost, we can take a page out of Neeb's Gaming's booth and do the same like we did for the zombified piglins and drop some TNT on top. So long, suckers! Observer, a cinematic shot, if you will. Fantastic. So what we're doing here is that we're having all of the TNT fall into this water source block, so then all it'll do will shoot me up like a cannon or my corpse up. Maybe you should be wearing some blast protection if you give this a shot. Ah, potion of the Turtle Master, I see. So then with a potion of the Turtle Master to keep me safe, I might move slow down here, but up top, just fine. And why you wouldn't use blast protection is that blast protection actually gives you knockback resistance and makes this whole thing invalid. You're just gonna be wasting TNT for no one's benefit. So if you were playing something like Bed Wars, where you need to launch yourself over to the other team, place down my TNT, let it ignite. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. Now, it is a little bit more practical in a mode where you're taking decreased damage from regular TNT, but it's still pretty fun. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no. Still landed it. Minecart PvP. We could use minecarts with TNT to do basically the same. By placing down a rail first, my minecart with TNT, and then shooting off a quick thing with my bow, that flame bow is going to immediately detonate, giving us an instant kill. Look at that! 127 points of damage right on Observer's skull. Or block. I don't really know your anatomy. So the pro method for doing this, and we'll show it by slowing down time, is that if you were to shoot out an arrow, so while the arrow is mid-air, oh, he got it! He got it! And he got himself in the process. Man, nothing like watching your own death in slow motion, huh? So TNT for a speedrun strat is that a lot of speedrunners will take the TNT that they're getting from something like a buried treasure and then use that as the way that they collect different blocks. And a great place for that is the village. Since with a properly placed TNT block, you could really get rid of a lot of parts of the house. Just make sure you're using something like a lever to set this off. Since otherwise, igniting it directly is gonna get the iron golem mad at you if it kills any of the villagers. I'm trying to get a sub-hour. Here we go. But a whole bunch of dirt, miscellaneous blocks can help out quite a bit, especially if you're not going and spending all your time taking down trees. So you're probably not thinking of using TNT when you're going into the ocean, but here's a way to make it all possible. Since if we were to take a TNT block, much like we put an anvil on top, drop a sand block in instead, it now thinks that it's inside of an air block and it lets it explode as if it wasn't water. And the great thing about this is that this works even if I have mining fatigue. So if I'm swimming around regularly here, I'm not going to have any issues getting into the ocean monument. I usually couldn't break this all, but place down my TNT, my sand. And if you know where the Elder Guardians are, you could even go and explode the 3 locations to give yourself an easy way to clear out all of the mining fatigue even when you have the effect. So underwater TNT isn't just a Bedrock Education Edition feature only. It's possible in vanilla too. So what we've got here is a TNT fireworks machine. And we're gonna see such when I set it all off. This one's not only pretty loud, but it's also pretty destructive. But look at how it all spreads out like that. So just by setting it off at different intervals, we can have the TNT turn all of its TNT siblings into a beautiful fireworks display. But now what we've got is the noise machine prank. You don't see anything out of the ordinary just yet, but if I was to go into free cam, you'll notice that we have an occasional randomizer that sets off TNT into a controlled space of water. So there's never any damage done, but it is going to be particularly scary when you keep hearing TNT go off in your base. And the reason that we have an observer here with a sapling that'll never grow is that this sapling, every time that it tries to grow, will give off a random bit of redstone that we detect with the observer, giving us a random signal for whenever this will go off. So the TNT gets set off there. You might see a couple of explosion particles, but nothing actually happened to my friend's house. And from that onto a proper anxiety machine, what we have here is the thing that was popular on Reddit for a while, which is a machine that might look like it's going to set off this TNT block, but check this out. It pushes at just the right interval that it actually never gets it to properly ignite, because while it's moving here, it isn't actually a block, it's a block entity. So it can't update even if it looks like there's constantly power that's brushing up against it. And the way that you do this is just having observers all line up like so. You can build it just by looking at it. I can even go and walk in the fray. And the reason that we have this string of redstone down underneath here is that we have to turn on 2 of these pistons at the same time. Otherwise, you turn on just one and it would have exploded either way. What we've got ourselves here is the Enderman anxiety experiment, which is that if we get a couple of Endermen down here holding TNT blocks, then eventually they'll place down one of their TNT blocks, who knows who it's gonna be, and they're on this bed of redstone where, hey, Opa, fantastic, thank you, sir. And you can turn your whole world into a Phoenix SC video. It's the mob cannon. We can set it off with a whole bunch of mobs that have slow falling on them and launch them off. Wow, that was way more forceful than I thought it would be. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you just load up the mobs yourself, and then what we have here is a whole bunch of TNT being dispersed into flowing water that pushes it all this way. So in the original video by Professor TNT, credit to them, they mentioned using blazes as a way of giving yourself a substantial amount of survival offense. Wow. Could you imagine if you just had a bunch of blazes dropping in from the sky on you? Oh yeah, I didn't even realize that you set it off, and then I just see see a bunch of fireball barrages dropping in. Oh no, it's just invisible, slow falling death. That's amazing. What we have here is a door made using only TNT. So I equipped the piece of armor that sets off the lectern with the skulk sensor, gives ourselves the TNT, which explodes my door, and because of a cobblestone generator, that door will replenish over time. And there we go, the cobblestone generator puts everything back into place. So it's literally just waterlogged leaves down here that work with all this lava down here to give ourselves enough cobblestone to push in, and the TNT output comes from this lectern, which is level 5. Amazing. It's just an innocent diamond block. I don't know how anyone could ever be mad at this, but the reason for it is that because you can have TNT look like any block while it explodes, we could have technically any block be exploding. Check this out. So the way that this all works is because of command like here, where we change the block state for a TNT that's summoned to look like any block that we so want. So if I wanted a particularly explosive observer, then I could do just that. And it even blinks like so. That's gotta be eerie to watch, isn't it? So what we have here is a button that'll summon in a TNT, but this TNT is particularly odd because it's set to the max fuse, giving ourselves a 14-hour-long bomb. And there's no way for us to clear this entity necessarily, so we're just gonna have to leave it be. Yeah, pull up a chair and sit down, observer. It's gonna take a little bit to explode, which is long enough where most players would probably just forget about it, but it will still go off in the server's lifetime. So if I saw this, I'd be wanting to design a kind of pool that it could drop into. Luckily, we have one designed. There we go. Out of sight, out of mind. And speaking of crazy TNT, we've got this one for the Mega TNT, which is that we can change the explosion power of TNT by modifying the summon command. So what we've got here is a TNT with the explosion power of 128. First of all, this gives you a good way to examine how the explosion power radiates in such a way. It's very strange scan lines. That begs the question though, will it explode obsidian? No, the bed trap. Whenever it becomes night and someone sleeps inside of this bed, that'll send off the input to turn their safest place in the base into the worst night of their life. As soon as they go down here and sleep, that's a real rude awakening, but it is an effective alarm clock. So if observer sets down that TNT, what I could use is a fishing rod to grab the entity and pull it this way, giving you an effective way to go and pull the TNT to your desired location. And we've used this in the past in a prank to actually pull the TNT towards someone and kill them during a PvP situation. If you get the right momentum and angle, you can definitely set it off right. Here we've got a design by Joseph Espindola, which observer has modified to give ourselves the TNT arrow cannon. So much like how we've killed the Ender Dragon using TNT arrows before, we can use a bunch of TNT to turn the arrows from this dispenser into high-powered missiles. And these villagers will show us off. I hope you all enjoy your day out, because you're out of days after this one. Wow! It even launched them off that way. The reason this all happens is that arrows do damage based off of velocity. So when they're getting sped up in such a way, all these TNT is turning them into high-powered missiles that can instantly rip through anything. So if I were to take my super bow like so and shoot down all my arrows, with all the TNT explosion damage that we're doing here, that'll stack with my power 5 and piercing, giving us the Warden Ender. Amazing. And that's not the last we're going to be seeing of our arrows, since if I were to set up a whole bunch of arrows that were inside of this, such as by shooting down a whole bunch of these splashing arrows like so, and then much like we've launched entities in the past, those were all going to shoot up a dangerously beautiful fountain. Wow, look at that. I even got myself in the process there. This here is a flying machine that when it reaches an immovable object will explode. First of all, this is an extra fast flying machine. So using this old design from Cube Hamster, it still works plenty well on new updates. And as soon as it reaches our target, it'll have traveled a long distance and explode like so. It pushes the redstone block that was powering it into place, and the missile does its trick. Yeah, for no TNT minecarts, that does a lot of damage. All right, so we got a platform of levers. What's gonna happen? I'm gonna take the first stab, that one. And then you and your friend will compete to see who's unlucky enough to get exploded. Oh, I guess both of us are is the answer. Maybe step back as soon as your friend's made the mistake. So we can get the cross section here and you can see just how little there is with TNT, but whoever gets unlucky will be the one who dies. Round 2. Okay, this is like Minesweeper. Oh no! It's just like Minesweeper and that I'm bad at it. So we've used TNT cannons to launch ourselves in the past. That's nothing new. But what we're going to be using here is a design by Observer to launch ourselves with a whole bunch of wind charges. So we're taking a normal TNT cannon that you would have built, and by using wind charges, we spray it all out like so. So all this is a bunch of wind charges down here that will take all of these TNT that prime on top and spray and pray, giving ourselves basically a shotgun and a machine gun in one. That's awesome. And worth noting is that the reason that we're pushing in this observer for the observer clock using a piston is that actually makes it faster than placing it by itself, giving us even more TNT coming out of our dispensers and even more to be shot off with the cannon. And still not going to be nearly as effective as the major TNT finale, the TNT nuke. So what we have here on display is a design made by the Savage Teddy that, with the help of just a little bit of redstone, we put those into place to prime it up, and then these will spray out the rest, giving ourselves the TNT dome. Wow. There was a village here once. So all that's happening is that we're just having these down here as the accelerant to shoot it off. And then we've got actually our bullets here from the top rope. Yeah, if you do this one first, then it'll detonate the whole thing without any propellant. And all you're gonna do is just turn yourself into a massive mistake. And with that, folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video. So see if they're right and have a good one, all right?